The number of bodies that are turning up is almost hard for us to even wrap our head around.
We're talking 40 people here. This is unprecedented.
Mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, they were loved by people and missed by people.
The bodies were piling up. We had a serial killer on our hands.
The victims of the Green River Killer.
The Green River Killer.
Been called the Green River Killer ever since the first bodies were pulled from this river.
The public was running out of patience. It was like, come on, catch this guy.
Now, on the 20th anniversary of the arrest that shook the nation, we're revisiting one of the most twisted stories in the annals of American crime to ask, how did this monster remain hidden in the shadows for so long?
He was incredibly successful at convincing the world that he was Ned Flanders, just a nice guy and a good family man.
Why couldn't the cops catch him?
A polygrapher said he didn't do these crimes. He's innocent.
And what did those closest to him, including his own son, know?
Matthew was torn between his love for his dad versus the reality of what was going on.
Husband, father, colleague, killer. This is Sins of the Father, the Green River Killer.
Till he was kill, kill, kill.
July 15th, 1982. A pair of boys are riding their bikes across the Peck Bridge, just south of Seattle, when suddenly,
They stopped for a moment on the bridge to catch their breath, and as they looked down into the rushing water, they saw something that caught their eye.
Initially, they think, okay, is this a mannequin that's been discarded down in the river? And they go down to investigate.
the boys slowly wade into the Green River, then stop short of the object.
They actually see it's not a mannequin. They can see the hair of a young woman sort of flowing underneath the water.
She was naked. She had jeans wrapped around her neck.
Detectives hurry to the scene.
The Kent Police Department determined her name was Wendy Caulfield. Cause of death was asphyxiation. We had the ligature, and that was placed into evidence.
They could tell there was quite a struggle. Her arm was broken. There was some visible bruising as well.
Wendy Caulfield is just 16 years old. Her mother, Virginia, tells investigators the teen was no stranger to trouble.
She said, well, I kind of knew this was going to happen. She was going down the wrong path. Wendy was known to be a hitchhiker. It was also rumored that she had been on the strip acting as a sex worker, so they knew that she was in dangerous situations.
She was living on the street for survival. She was involved in drugs. She'd actually been in juvenile detention for a recent theft and had snuck out on kind of a day pass to visit with her family, and she hadn't returned to the juvenile detention center.
The horrific murder sends shockwaves throughout the town of Kent.
It's a small suburb, no significant violent crime, relatively safe environment, what most people would call a quiet community. So any type of violent crime, everybody would be aware of it.
Everybody was scared. It was just frightening because we had no idea who the killer is.
While police begin investigating the teen's killing, 10 miles away in Renton, it's just another day in the life for 7-year-old Matthew Ridgway, on summer break from nearby East Hill Elementary School.
Matthew would spend his summers riding his bikes, playing outside with his friends, running around the neighborhood, coming home too late for dinner. He had a very good life.
a life he shares with his single mother, Marcia.
Marcia just had a job at a dental office. So she wasn't making a whole lot of money, but she was trying to make ends meet. Life for any single mom is really hard.
The pair are still trying to find their footing 1 year after Marcia's contentious divorce from Matthew's father, Gary.
They had Matthew 2 years into their marriage, and everything seemed good until Matthew was about 5 years old. And Marcia tells a story where they were engaging in BDSM, and Gary choked her, and he went too far. And that was the first time that she was really afraid of him. And she put a stop to any of the activities, which of course made Gary very upset.
The relationship that Gary and Marcia had wasn't great for Marcia. Gary really wanted her to just cook, clean, basically do everything. He wanted sex constantly, 2-3 times a day, and that just started to become a bit much for Marcia.
Gary, for his part, tells friends at his job at the nearby Kenworth truck factory a different story.
We worked in the paint department, mostly worked mornings. I think we got along because our lockers were so close. I would go in early and he'd be the only one in there. So we had a lot of time to talk. He had a crush on me. He would tell me about his family and his wife. He gets irate when he thinks about her because she's screwed him over for child support and then spousal support. He can hold a grudge forever. There was 2 Garys. Nice co-worker Gary, and then there was crazy-eyed Gary. When he'd get really mad, his eyes would get all watery and crazy looking. Don't F with Gary today.
But when it comes to his son, Matthew, Ridgway is quick to table his anger.
He'd turn into good dad Gary, and he'd have the happy face. His eyes would start sparkling again. He really did love his son. Gary spoiled him, said he gives him everything he wants.
Decades later, in a police interview, Matthew recalls those formative years with his single dad.
I saw my dad not every weekend, but pretty much every other weekend. And on most of the holidays, I would see him. He would play lawn darts with us, camping and fishing. When I was younger, I can remember a Christmas where my dad got a racetrack and set it up. He'd always, be there for me.
Gary had a great relationship with his son, Matthew. Matthew has said that his dad really kind of went the extra mile to try to make all the time they spent together memorable and special.
While Gary and his son enjoy their carefree summer together, in nearby Kent, the mood grows increasingly terrifying. There, on August 12, 1982, an employee at a meatpacking plant along the banks of the Green River is taking a smoke break. When he looks up,
He spotted something sort of caught up on a log in the middle of the rushing river, and he thought maybe it's a dead animal. He decided to go down, get a closer look, and at that point, he realized it was another naked, dead woman.
police identify the body as 23-year-old Deborah Lynn Bonner. Her corpse is found less than half a mile from where Wendy Caulfield's was discovered only a month earlier. And the MO is strikingly similar.
She was also naked and had also been strangled, and when the detectives began to look into her death, they determined that she was also a prostitute.
Detective Dave Reichert of the King County Sheriff's Office catches the case and digs in.
Questions in my mind are, is this related? Are these two related? I knew they were in the river. I knew they were up against the river bank. I knew that they were submerged in water. All those things are kind of going through your mind.
But before Reichert can connect those murders, authorities discover two more young women in the Green River.
The bodies almost seem to be staged or placed. They were in the water. One woman was facing up, one woman was facing down, with large rocks on them to keep them in that position. The killer had inserted rocks into their genitals. It was a horror scene.
40 years later, Reichert can still vividly recall the nightmarish tableau.
One of the victims was on her back, and you could see her face, and one hand was loose in the river, and as the river swept over them slowly around that bend, her hand just kind of waved back and forth. And I remember thinking she's sort of saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm right here. You know, help me." And those are memories, of course, that stay with you forever.
Investigators begin processing the scene, only to make another shocking discovery.
The grass is tall, it's filled with blackberry bushes, and I was moving down the bank of the river and taking notes and photographs. And we found another young female body laying in the tall grass. She was unclothed for the most part. Her bra was pulled up over the top of her breasts. She had a ligature around her neck and had not been there very long.
It's like every time they arrive at a scene, there's multiple women. They find so much more than they ever bargained for, and it felt like they were dealing with something huge.
Police identify the three women as Cynthia Hines, Marcia Chapman, and Opal Mills.
Cynthia and Opal were only about 17 and 16 years old, respectively. They were actually friends. Marcia, on the other hand, was in her early 30s. She's a young mom, and she was a known sex worker.
All of these women had been strangled with ligatures of some kind, sometimes pieces of their own clothing, or just the bare hands of an assailant.
The striking similarities lead detectives to a grim conclusion.
We did believe we had a serial killer on our hands.
Word of the killings quickly spreads across the greater Seattle region.
In Seattle this morning, police are hunting a mass murderer, a sexual psychopath who preys on young prostitutes.
This story absolutely explodes. People immediately want to know what's being done.
I'm scared. I really am. I'm almost afraid to open up my doors.
So now we've gone from a couple of bodies found to 3 more, which brings us up to 5 over the course of a month. And the community is terrified, especially for their daughters, their sisters, their wives. It really felt like they were dealing with a madman on the loose. No one knew if they were safe.
In nearby Renton, Marcia and Gary Ridgway keep the increasingly alarming news from their young son, Matthew.
Did he ever talk about the Green River killings? You said he never did to you.
No, not to me.
But try as his parents may to shield him from the horrors, Matthew Ridgway will become forever linked to one of the most prolific serial killers in the history of American crime.
The victims of the Green River Killer.
The Green River Killer. Been called the Green River Killer ever since the first bodies were pulled from this river.
A lot of newspapers called them the Green River Killings, and he became the Green River Killer from that point on.
Keep summer going with the Nissan Rogue and Nissan Pathfinder. Nissan named #1 in new vehicle quality by J.D. Power. Hurry in today.
Hi, game day scratchers, please.
Here you go.
It all comes down to this. They need a miracle. Here's the snap. The kick. It's blocked by Janice from El Segundo! Oh my God! Where will a little play take you?
Ma'am?
Game day scratchers from the California Lottery. A little play can make your day.
Havoc has been unleashed at SeaWorld San Diego's Hollow Scream.
Igniting scorching new fears no soul can escape. Step into 17 realms of terror with 2 new haunted houses. All new scream-inducing scare zones, 12 twisted taverns, sensationally sinister shows, and heart-dropping nighttime thrills. Discover why SeaWorld's Hollow Scream is one of USA Today's top theme park Halloween events. Get limited time deals on tickets at SeaWorldSanDiego.com/HallowScream.
Police in King County, Washington are hunting a man dubbed the Green River Killer after discovering the bodies of 5 suspected prostitutes dumped in or near the river running through the Seattle suburbs.
The media, of course, wants answers right away. The families want answers right away.
The community is starting to get upset. I mean, there's literal protesting in the streets demanding, why haven't you found the predator that is terrorizing our community?
We're just at the beginning stages of the investigation. We don't have all the answers. So the pressure is intense and it's on immediately.
Although Marcia Ridgway and her 7-year-old son Matthew are living just 10 miles away from the crime scenes, they'll later tell investigators they are quite familiar with the killer's dumping ground.
Did you and your father ever go biking or walking along any rivers? And you said yesterday you specifically remember the Green River. Yes. And how old were you at that time? Roughly.
I don't have an age, but I was not old enough to have a bike. I was in a child seat.
So he would actually ride you?
Yes.
You'd be on the back?
Yes.
When you were bicycling, did you ever stop and go swimming? Yeah, we did, on Green River. When we was down there. Dirty and mucky in there, isn't it? Yes, it is.
And was it your understanding that your dad knew a lot of camping sites and wooded areas within 45 to 60 minutes of the house?
We would take drives and we'd pull off the side of the road and find little off street and pull in.
He liked going down there, as long as there wasn't a lot of other people around. It seemed to me that he didn't like being around lots of other people. They made him uncomfortable.
We would pretty much end up trying to stay away from campgrounds.
And most of these are within an hour's drive of the SeaTac area, right?
Yeah, pretty much, maybe a little more than an hour, but pretty much so.
Did you ever stop and have sex along the Green River?
Yes. Jeez.
Whereabouts?
Lots of places. On the banks of the tall grass.
During the nighttime or during daytime?
Nighttime and daytime, both.
Marcia did ask Gary about what was happening with the bodies turning up at the rivers. And he would just be very dismissive of it. He acted very chill about the whole thing. Like, yeah, this is happening, but, they're prostitutes.
With 5 murdered women on their hands and no leads, the task force gets an unexpected break 1 month into their investigation when 43-year-old Melvin Foster walks into the sheriff's office to file a report.
Melvin Foster is a cab driver who works primarily on the Strip, and he tells investigators he feels that he has information that could help them find the killer.
This particular part of Seattle was known as the SeaTac Strip. It was sort of right by the airport and became a seedy area that included places like topless bars running 24/7. And obviously, with that, it brought a good deal of sex work to the streets. Melvin was very well versed on the Strip area. He would often give these girls rides. He said, it's Seattle, it's raining. They don't want to be standing out in the rain, so I'll give them a ride, or I'll give them and their John a ride.
Foster suggests the killer could be a cab driver and volunteers to help detectives identify him.
Melvin gave off bad vibes from the beginning. He was really into younger women. He'd been married 5 different times. He was a former thief who had gone to jail for stealing a car.
Investigators are immediately suspicious. They ask Foster to take a polygraph test, and he fails it.
I sat down, I interviewed him. He at first denied knowing any of the victims, and then when pressed, he knew all of the victims, had them in his taxi cab.
It seemed like he wanted to be close to the investigation, and investigators are thinking, okay, is this the person we're looking for?
That was, I think, what really made the police feel that they were on the right path with Melvin.
Detectives begin round-the-clock surveillance on Foster, believing it's only a matter of time before he strikes again.
Not only that, they want to see, while we have him under surveillance, if the murders stop, this is another sign that he's our guy.
He was the primary suspect. He was an odd sort of person. He was intelligent, but he was just different.
You can see the footage in some of the interviews. He came off strange. He definitely made a few strange comments to reporters that really stood out to investigators.
Are you scared at all?
Scared, no. Fright is for the guilty.
When you think of the profile of somebody who is targeting young women, he just seemed to be the right fit.
Police search Foster's house, but find nothing. Still, it doesn't quell their suspicions.
He's saying, like, I knew a lot of the girls, I take the girls different places. You know, I've been in a lot of these areas, I know these areas. So things like for them are matching up.
Line here. Did you kill all those women or what?
No, but I wish I did. I wish I did know who did.
When local cab driver Melvin Foster suddenly inserts himself into the Green River investigation in the autumn of 1982, it raises alarm bells for detectives. Unbeknownst to investigators, 32-year-old divorced dad Gary Ridgway is also raising the eyebrows of his colleagues at the Kenworth Truck Factory with his own strange behavior.
When I first met Gary, I just thought the weird little stuff he would say was just like quirks. Some of the girls that worked there, he couldn't stand. He called them sluts, and that's all they wanted to do is hook up and get effed. And I was like, calm down, Gary. Every time he turns red, I know he's gonna start saying crazy stuff. He would hide around the shop and stare at people. My sister-in-law would say stupid stuff to him. I used to tell her, what are you doing? You're poking a lion. Just keep in your mind that he could be the Green River Killer.
While the killer continues to elude authorities, he does leave another calling card. Only this time, it's nearly 6 miles away from the Green River.
Motorcyclists found the badly decomposed nude body of a woman Saturday night. Police do believe that this latest victim is related to the Green River case.
She's found in a new spot. This was a wooded area that was very close to the airport, but still pretty secluded, pretty well covered.
Police ID the body as Giselle Lavorne, a 17-year-old sex worker missing for over 2 months.
Giselle was smart. She had 145 IQ. She had a lot going for her, but then, of course, she met the wrong guy. And Giselle worked the streets in order to provide for her boyfriend/pimp.
Investigators soon realized they've stumbled upon another dumping site. The killer's change in dumping venues initially throws authorities.
I'm not sure how common it is to switch up your sites.
Another terrible discovery in the woods in South King County. They fear another victim of the Green River Killer.
Some suspect he's simply trying to stay one step ahead.
At the time, it was all over the media. So he was probably watching and following these stories and realized, okay, this is an area that they're watching very closely. So I think that was an act of self-preservation, honestly, to just kind of move a little bit where we're gonna go to dump these bodies so that I can evade capture.
By the fall of 1982, police attribute 6 murdered and scores of missing sex workers to the Green River Killer.
People became frustrated, the media, the community, the command staff, the politicians who were providing the money to fund the task force started to grow a little bit irritable.
They were mothers, they were daughters, and they were sisters, they were friends, and they were loved by people and missed by people. They were important to somebody. And that's what really needed to register. And I think this became something people could relate to.
I was scared to death because they couldn't find him. They were finding bodies every week. I mean, they were just dropping like flies. And I thought, man, this is horrifying. It's like a movie.
Marcia Ridgway is also growing increasingly concerned. The victims all worked in the SeaTac strip near her ex-husband Gary's place, a place their 7-year-old son Matthew often visits.
That's the strip where a lot of the prostitutes will walk because it's close to the airport. And there's like a bunch of cheap motels up and down there. And every time I've driven down that road, there's at least 20 of them just hanging out down there.
Is he familiar with SeaTac Airport at all?
Yeah, he's familiar with SeaTac Airport. There was a bank machine there. I know that he went over there and used it when we were married, which therefore I assume he used it after we were married because he always did before.
Marcia specifically fixated on the fact that Gary liked to take walks and go jogging in the area where these women were being abducted.
As time went on, people began to get nervous, wondering if this man, if he's capable of killing these people over and over and over again, where you're finding bodies in clusters around the city. He's capable of anything.
With no other leads, detectives bring their main suspect back in for questioning, Melvin Foster. But the grilling goes nowhere.
He always denied it, that he had any direct part in the Green River killings. In fact, he told the task force he was going to sue them. He went to the local press. He said that they were harassing him.
More women were actually going missing while he was being tailed and surveilled. So it was starting to look more and more like he wasn't their guy.
By the spring of 1983, 21 sex workers are reported missing, including 18-year-old Marie Malvar. Only this time, there's a witness.
What happened was Marie ended up getting into a vehicle. This was a maroon truck, and what was distinctive about it was it had a spot of primer on it. And her boyfriend / pimp saw this from afar. He was watching, and he said it seemed like Marie was arguing with the guy a little bit, but then she got in and she drove away.
Marie's boyfriend had a bad feeling about it. He actually decided, I'm gonna follow them. So he's following them, but then the maroon truck loses him and he can't find them.
Marie doesn't come back that night. So the next day, Marie's boyfriend goes to her father's house, tells him what he saw, and the father says, okay, you and I need to go find that truck.
The men search the surrounding area and eventually find what they believe is the same maroon pickup truck. It's parked in front of the home of a 34-year-old divorced dad and paint shop worker named Gary Ridgway.